Hi, this is Ed. I want to welcome you back to Torah Time. This week's Torah portion is Shemot. And in my thinking, the theme for this portion is be fruitful and multiply. And you'll see as we talk about this, you'll see clearly where I'm being led, and hopefully you get some gleaning out of that as well. With that being said, I want to tell you that every week when we do Torah study and every week when we study the scriptures on a whole, there are so many multiple layers and levels of giftedness and opportunities to learn these different levels and grow and things like that. I want to encourage you to know that we don't feel like from a Torah Time perspective that we're giving you the final word. Our goal is encouragement, insight to maybe a piece or a theme, or reviewing the whole, maybe giving a play-by-play of the entire portion. That happens sometime. And so I want to thank you for listening, but I want to remind you that we're not definitely trying to infuse a particular thought, but just encourage as we go along the way. And I pray that these are a benefit to you. Continue to let us know how you are enjoying them and able to use them. It's very encouraging for us. Okay, so we're going to get back to this theme of being fruitful and multiply. Exodus chapter 1, verse 13. Now that be fruitful and multiply may sound like something we've seen before. It is. It's coming right out of the basic, Torah scripture understanding 101. Be fruitful and multiply. Yahweh tells Hava and Adam, be fruitful and multiply. That's where you first heard that. Subdue, guard and tend. Subdue, rule, be fruitful, grow and go. And so that's where you first heard that. But we're going to pick up here in Exodus chapter 1, verse 13. And I want to show you another principle. Then it says in Exodus 1:13, it says, the Egyptians ruthlessly imposed upon the Israelites. We'll stop right there and say that what was going on, this Egyptian slavery, similar to what's going on here today in the world. Similar to what's going on, and maybe not in America, but all over the world. I don't know if you have a global awareness that there are still people that are being imprisoned. There's still people that are being, slaves. Sex trade. The sex trade is alive and well in the world. Maybe not in America, and maybe it is in certain areas. So those types of situations where people are being treated harshly still exist. Now, it also existed with our foreparents. It was told that they would be in slavery. This was told to Abraham. This was a part of the promises that Yah had made to Abraham. So we know there's a destiny to this. But here is Egypt, Mitzrayim, this bitter thing trying to put his weight down and oppress that which God has promised. There is a little note in there for you. God has a promise for you, but there may be bitterness, there may be oppression, there may be things that you'll have to come to and through. Don't give up. Don't give up, because that's exactly what's happening here. Let's go to verse 15 and read a little bit more. It says, Then the king of Egypt spoke to the Hebrew midwives, and he said, when you do the duties of a midwife for the Hebrew woman, and you see them on the birth stools, watch this. If it's a son, you shall kill him. But if it's a daughter, she shall live. But the midwives feared God and did not do as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the male children alive. So the king of Egypt called for the midwives and said to them, why have you done this thing and saved the male children? Verse 19, and the midwives said to Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women. They are lively, and they give birth to the midwives before they come to them. I'm going to say that again, because the Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women. They're lively, and they give birth to the midwives before they come from them. I'm reading it from the New King James Version. I want to tell you right now, this is a similar thing, similar theme as we get farther and deeper and wider into this understanding of being fruitful. By the way, even in Egypt, our foreparents, the Israelites, were being fruitful, following that commandment. I want to ask you a question, and we'll move on. We're still looking at this theme. Are you being fruitful? Now, being fruitful and multiply, you don't have to be like having, your idea you're going to have 62 children or 814 children. But what about the children you have? And did you cut off? Oh, well, we're not going to have any more. We live in America. Oh, we'll just have 2 children. Well, who told us to have 2 children? Oh, we're going to only have 3, or we're going to only have 4. Be fruitful and multiply. Challenging all of us, myself included. Have stinking thinking. Remove that and go with what God is saying do. If God is blessing you to be fruitful, we should do it, right? We should do it. Now, that's just one thing. That's the physical connection that you have between you and your spouse. What about other ways of being fruitful? Discipleship, coaching and helping and mentoring, being mentored, coming up and honoring one's word. That's being fruitful. When we honor our word, that's integrity. That's good fruit. That's a good seed, and that's going to produce really, really good fruit. But this whole theme is here that Egypt, just to remind you what we're talking about here, those were the topical ideas and the practical ideas that come from this. But let's go back. Egypt is oppressing them. And despite the oppression, they're still going on. Let's make another point here. When we go into fear, we tighten up. We don't loosen up. So when we go into fear, tighten up, not loosen up, we go into lack of trust. We don't trust. We don't have emunah. But that was not the case. They were still going forward. And these women, as it said in the scripture, they were faithful. They feared God, it says in the Torah. They feared God, so they did what God would do rather than what man told them to do. Now, this man's in charge, but they knew somebody who was greater, who was in charge, and they chose to obey his commandments versus doing what a man says do. How many times do we get tricked into doing what a man says do? Well, come on, let's just take this contraception. We don't have to be fruitful. Come on, let's just have the sex without all that. We don't want any babies. We don't want anybody stopping us from having fun. What? Really? Or whatever excuse we plug in there. God honors when you're fruitful. I have a friend of mine, a mentor friend, who certainly has been more prosperous as he got more children. He has 9 children. I think you know him. His name's Scott Diffenderfer. He's been fruitful and continue to be fruitful. But back to the point, it seems to me that this is a similar theme to what we're seeing over somewhere else. Do you know where? Matthew chapter 2. I knew you'd say that. Let's read in verse 16. It says, then Herod, here's another ruler, here's another king. Then Herod, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, was exceedingly angry and sent forth and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem and in the coast. Here we go, more Holocaust, more killing, or at least the desire to kill. And all in the coast thereof from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had diligently inquired of the wise men. Then was fulfilled which was spoken by Jeremy the prophet, saying, in Ramah there was a voice heard, lamentation and weeping, great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children, and would not be comforted because they are not. This is terrible. Why? Because a man, again, trying to root out the Christ, the Messiah, the Moshiach, trying to root him out. And in the name of that, you got genocide of young babies. This is terrible. There was another incident of this, maybe not on a mass scale, in the book of Jasher, and you heard me refer to this before, where Nimrod wants to kill Abram. His name wasn't changed to Abraham yet. He wasn't even conceived. He wasn't even born yet. But they saw him. The wise men saw him. This is a wonderful read. Email me or text me. There's certain versions of Jasher that are quite a bit better than others. So I can tell you about that information if you get in touch with me. But anyway, what happened was Nimrod got so angry and wanted to wipe out the existence of Avram because of what had been prophesied about him that he was willing to kill him. Well, Terah ends up just having one of his servants' babies and giving that baby to Nimrod as if that baby was Avram. And of course, Nimrod wastes no time. He destroys that baby. And it's kind of a graphic detail I don't want to go into here out on Torah Time. I said all that to say this. Listen, they want to kill. We want to have life. What are some of the biggest ways we see that the Herods of the world and the Egypts of the world are telling us right now to not be fruitful and multiply? Well, yeah, use contraception. Yeah, use contraception. Don't have babies because you can't take care of yourself. So there's that doubt that comes in. Abortions, right? We're a big abortion state. It's wrong. It is wrong in the eyes of God. It is a murder when we choose, oh, I can't support a baby. Then we dash it just like Nimrod did. We kill it. And so those are some ways that we are wiping out the fruitful commandment. You know?